Very few people know about it. Very few people think about it. And it is a 100% necessity for every single chip maker.
They're the companies that are helping to power the AI revolution, but you won't often hear their names in headlines.
Only company that makes these. There's really nobody who can touch them.
MarketBeat's Jeffrey Neal Johnson shares a list of 3 picks and shovel stocks that are essential to the rise in AI.
Because on the 31st, they got hit with a whole bunch of new analyst ratings. One of them even has an upgrade from $135 a share to $175.
Could these companies grow even larger than the massive chip makers they support? Let's dive in. Jeffrey, so great to have you back on the show today. We are talking about AI, but not the big names that everybody knows about. I think right now investors have seen all of this renewed investment and interest in the chip makers, the big NVIDIAs, AMD seeing a lot of growth right now. But we're going to talk today about the picks and shovels plays. These are the companies in AI that are getting those steady paychecks. Talk about how important picks and shovels plays are in any industry, but especially in a developing one like AI, where we're seeing all of this investment right now.
A lot of investors, they hear all these names that come across the news and they focus on that. Nobody actually thinks, how's that done? Like, what does it take to make that happen? They see the LLMs that are out, ChatGPT and Gemini, and they, I guess, assume automatically that they just plug a computer into an NVIDIA GPU and instantly you've got ChatGPT, but it doesn't work like that. I mean, there's huge buildings full of massive amounts of PCs, and the infrastructure and the pieces and parts that it takes to pull that off in itself are almost as big, if not even a bigger industry than the chip makers are.
I like to talk about these as infrastructure plays. If you think about a highway, you drive on a highway every day, and you might, as a consumer, see the highway and think that's the only final product. But there's so many different pieces and components that go into making that, just like AI. And that is the list that we are talking about today. I'm really excited about these names that you have for us because they're names you might not hear quite as often, but they're already seeing tremendous growth and have potential to grow even more. Let's get to that first company on your list of 3 picks and shovels plays that are growing and taking off right alongside all of the investment in AI. What's the first company on your list?
The first company on our list is Applied Digital, and they are basically the digital landlord. So all of this equipment has to go into a building somewhere. They've gotten very good at building real estate that is specifically designed to house high performance computing and AI. They're building out now for CoreWeave, and they're building out for other larger companies to come in and just plug in and get going. That way, the infrastructure is already there, the cooling's already there, everything's ready to go. You can move in, just like CoreWeave does. You can move in and just take over an area of the building and spin up and not have to deal with paying the electric bill and deal with all of the stuff that goes along with that part of the infrastructure.
And we've talked about Applied Digital on this channel before because the stock has seen tremendous growth already this year. I want to talk about what's exciting investors, but first I have an infrastructure question that seems the most logical to me. And when you think about being this huge landlord for these huge data centers, the first thing that comes to mind for me is that's a massive amount of investment. How is Applied Digital doing on that path toward profitability after this first, huge initial investment to build these data centers?
They're doing great. I mean, it's a long row, but they've already proven it out. They've already proven that they can make money after they've generated the facility. So I think the path to profitability is one where they just need to start picking up more customers. Because I mean, it's kind of like a McMansion. You just kind of cookie stamp. It's the same thing over and over again. You're building a giant building, you're running a whole bunch of power to it, you're putting in cooling, and then you're plugging in clients. So the path to profitability for them, I think, is not far off. All they need is one more big client, two more big clients. You get a Microsoft or a Gemini to come in, or Google Gemini to come in and say they need 3 data centers distributed across the United States, and that's it for this guy. This thing goes skyward.
Now, let's talk about why this company is seeing so much interest in the stock right now. We saw a big boost this week in Applied Digital. What are investors seeing, and what's the stock story right now?
The smart money seems to think that that their next earnings report is going to be a really big. They had one day of something like 250 plus percent call volume on their options. I think that kind of sparked interest in the retail side. And so over the last few days, as they've been running up to their earnings report, it's just become more and more interesting because CoreWeave is extending their deal. The options play is happening, so smart money thinks something's going on. Retail investors are starting to pile on. These guys should come out with a really good and healthy earnings report that could send this stock pretty quickly up the charts. And if you're a long-term investor, I say hit it every time there's a dip and just keep piling it up because in the long run, at the end game, you're going to come out a winner.
Yeah, that long-term outlook is absolutely the way to look at investing in these key players that are helping to grow AI. And there are other names out there. If you're looking for other companies that are helping to drive the world forward right now, make sure to check out our latest premium article just released this week. It's a list of the 5 stocks that are shaping tomorrow's world, a really interesting list of companies to get into right now. It's a free article just for our YouTube viewers. You can scan the QR code now or click the link in the description of this video to get that free list right now on MarketBeat.com. All right, Jeffrey, let's move on to that second company on your list of picks and shovels plays to watch in the AI race right now.
So the second one we're looking at is Vertiv. And Vertiv, I like to call them the life support system. If you consider AI the brain, then we were just talking about the body. You got to put the brains in a body somewhere. You got to apply digital. But now you got to talk about the life support system, right? And that's what Vertiv is. They provide the essential cooling and they apply the essential power supply or uninterrupted power supply, the UPS system, and then of course the cooling. Now the big thing about Vertiv and their cooling systems is that the new stuff has gotten to the point that it's so hot that it really just isn't efficient to cool it with a fan, right? You have to submerge it in water and you have to cool it with water. The new racks that are coming into these call centers, they look like they're coming from a plumbing supply store. They have like faucet connections on the back of them and all kinds of stuff like that. And that's because all of these systems are now going to like liquid glycol and basically just liquid cooling systems where they're interconnected to each other. Fluid flows through them, flows back into a central manifold where it's cooled, and then maybe even heat exchange to recover energy, depending on how green the data center is. And Vertiv is the leader in all, right? There's really nobody who can touch them when it comes to specifically liquid cooling in data centers.
So it's clearly a very needed feature in the growth of the data centers and the new investment into the infrastructure for AI. But let's take a look at how the stock is performing. Are we seeing that come through in earnings? Are we seeing that increased demand come through in excitement over the stock? I think looking at this chart, it feels like this one potentially has more room to grow because it's not at the same highs that Applied Digital is seeing right now.
Yeah, they're not really at the same highs, but their Q2 earnings report was fantastic. They had net sales of 2.64 billion. That was a record for them. That was up 35% year over year. And most importantly, they reported that they have a record backlog, right? They have 8.5 billion with a B dollars worth of backlog equipment and services and all the stuff that they provide. That alone, I mean, like $8.5 billion worth of backlog says more than you could ever really want. I mean, that provides investors with a fairly long runway of being able to see this company producing money.
That's a really great sign for investors looking at this company. I want to end the discussion on this company by looking at what the analysts are saying. How much more upside are they expecting in Vertiv?
Okay, so analysts right now, the analyst consensus rating really doesn't show a whole lot of upside. There's only like 4 or 5% upside. But what you got to do is you got to look at the newest rating because on the 31st, they got hit with a whole bunch of new analyst ratings. One of them even has an upgrade from $135 a share to $175. So that leaves plenty of upside, right? And that's something that you want to remember and look at when you're looking at these tech stocks. Every single time they do something big, right? The analysts are going to swoop in and re-rate, and they're all upward revision. And so when you're looking at the analyst side of things, if you're looking at the overall rate, the big picture, there's not much to see. But if you're looking at what happened just recently, there's a lot.
Yeah, those recent revisions definitely should tell investors something. Well, let's get to that third pick that you just hinted at. And I think this is the first time we're talking about this company on the channel.
Okay, so this one is actually one of my favorites. This is Teradyne. Okay, if Applied Digital, right, creates the body, right, and you have the circulatory system and the life support system is created by Vertiv, then Teradyne is kind of like the doctor. They're the quality inspector. Before anything goes out the door, they look at everything. Not them specifically, but they create the equipment that analyzes these super complex system on a chip computers before they go out the door, because it's kind of hard to have a standard analyzation of a chip with a billion transistors.
I think it's really interesting, and it stands out that you say this is one of your favorite stocks right now because you're in the market every day looking at up and coming companies and researching new companies for articles on MarketBeat every day. So the fact that this one stands out to you means something. Why is that? Why is this one different?
Paradigm is the only company that makes these testing benches, right? So they pull out the NVIDIA GPU, they plug it into this Teradyne bench, they hit a button. Seconds later, it says it's good to go. Unplug it, send it down the road without the fear of it coming back because it failed somewhere down the road. Intel had a recall not too long ago where the chips were out for quite some time before they were used in such a way that the chip design failure was found, right? Well, Paradigm creates equipment that tests these chips so that they don't run into stuff like that. So as the chip manufacturing industry gets more complex, the need for more complex testing to ensure that those chips don't fail will continue to grow, which just means that Paradigm will also continue to grow. It's one of those things, it's a pick and shovel play that nobody really thinks about, right? You got to build it, you've got to assemble it, you've got to stick it in a building, you got to hook it up to cooling supplies, but nobody thinks about like the quality control side of things. And Teradyne is one of the only companies, if not the only company, probably the only company that could pull off manufacturing testing equipment for the large players. So you could pretty much bet that in TSMC, at NVIDIA, on Intel's new foundry floor, the testing equipment that they're going to be using is this Teradyne equipment. And it's not just the equipment. So they have a backlog of services that need to be done on this equipment. They have a backlog of software updates that will need to be done on this equipment. So it's not just selling the testing equipment, it's the subscription revenue that's coming from the continued servicing and upgrading of the equipment that's been sold. And when you're talking about a $1 million test bench, you're going to keep that thing on your work floor for as long as you can. So you're going to keep paying that monthly fee to have it updated and upgraded, and you're going to keep reaching out to the manufacturer of that workbench every time you change something on your side, so that Paradigm can then create a testing system for that particular design. And so it just continues to give them more revenue. And so my like for the company comes from the fact that very few people know about it, very few people think about it, and it is a 100% necessity for every single chip maker to test their chip. And it's going to become an even bigger, more complex necessity as these chips continue to grow in complexity and as these system on a chip systems continue to grow in complexity.
And clearly, a lot of growth potential ahead for this company as demand increases, like you just talked about. Well, let's talk about the stock story. What is the stock doing right now, and how much growth could be ahead for this company? How big is the runway for this company that seems to have almost no competition?
Their Q2 earnings report that came out in July, it showed that their traditional markets were a little soft. So, as we all know, traditional markets are cyclical, and so they're going through a phase right now where their earnings report aren't as robust as they could be. But the big thing that you need to notice about the earnings report, and you also need to kind of think about when it comes to the stock, is that while the cyclical market showed a little bit of softness, the AI semiconductor market did not. It was still rolling, still going just fine. So when you look at this stock, right, you got to think that it's kind of close to the bottom. You have to believe that when the cyclical nature of the traditional market come back around and they start getting orders from traditional development companies that, non-AI. So Ford comes to them for a new batch of car computers or a new testing system for their car computers, whatever. When the new line of chips come out, then the new need for the quality inspection stuff will come out as well. And once that cyclicality kicks off again, then the stock has nowhere to go but up. So right now, I feel like the stock is stable, but I feel like it's more on the bottom of its potential.
It's a really good case for this company that our investors, our viewers might not have seen before. So, Jeffrey, thank you for bringing this one and the whole list of picks and shovels play in the AI story to our investors today. Let us know what you think in the comments. Are you in any of these companies already? Are you just starting to look into them? Do you think there's competitors of some of these three that might even be better stocks to look at in the picks and shovel race for AI investment? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. And as always, happy investing.